Welcome back to Spy World Stories, the channel where true espionage tales hit harder than any Hollywood thriller. Before we dive deep into one of the most shocking double lives in British history, don't forget to hit that like button right now if you love stories that twist your sense of loyalty. And if you're new here, smash, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming. Drop a comment below and tell us exactly where you're watching from today. London, New York. Today, we bring you an intense, true espionage story that will leave you stunned. Picture a man who walked the gilded halls of Buckingham Palace, cataloging priceless masterpieces for the Queen herself, while secretly feeding Britain's most guarded secrets straight to Joseph Stalin, a respected art scholar, knighted by the crown. Yet for over a decade, he was one of the Soviet Union's most valuable assets inside the heart of British intelligence. His name was Anthony Blunt, and this is the first part of his unbelievable story, the rise of the spy who lived in two worlds at once. Let's start at the beginning, because every great betrayal has roots in privilege, pressure, and the times that shape a man. Anthony Frederick Blunt was born on September 26, 1907, in the quiet seaside town of Bournemouth, Hampshire. He was the third and youngest son of the Reverend Arthur Stanley von Blunt, a stern Church of England vicar with puritanical views, and his wife Hilda, Violet Master. Hilda came from a family tied to the British civil service in India, but the real connection that would one day open palace doors. On his mother's side, Anthony was a distant relative of the royal family, a third cousin to the future Queen Elizabeth II through links to the Earl of Strathmore and the Bowes-Lyon line. That bloodline would matter more than anyone could imagine. Young Anthony didn't grow up in some grand estate, but his father's posting changed everything. When Anthony was still a boy, Reverend Blunt became chaplain to the British Embassy in Paris. The family moved to the glittering city of light. And for the next 15 years or so, Paris was home. Imagine little Anthony wandering the Louvre as a child, staring up at the grand canvases of Poussin and the French masters. He drank in the language, the culture, the art. By his teens, he was fluent in French, and his love for European painting wasn't just a hobby, it was becoming his identity. He also picked up German and Italian along the way. Those languages would later become weapons in his secret arsenal. Back in England for schooling, Anthony attended St. Peter's in Seaford. Then the elite Marlborough College, the same prestigious public school that shaped generations of Britain's ruling class. He was bright, artistic, a bit aloof, already showing that quiet intensity that would define him. Classmates remembered a boy who could debate art theory like a professor, but kept his deeper thoughts guarded. In 1926, at just 19, he won a mathematics scholarship to Trinity College, Cambridge. The ancient university, with its towering chapels and whispered secrets, was about to become the stage for one of the 20th century's greatest intelligence disasters. But first, the young scholar had to find his path. At Cambridge, Blunt started in mathematics. He even topped his year, but his heart was in languages and art. He switched to modern languages, focusing on French and Italian, and graduated in 1930 with a blazing first-class honors degree. That same brilliance earned him a fellowship at Trinity in 1932. Based on a dazzling dissertation about artistic theory in Renaissance Italy and 17th century France. He was teaching French, writing for the Cambridge Review, and quickly becoming known as one of the sharpest young minds in the university. But Cambridge in the late 1920s and early 1930s wasn't just about books and punting on the river. The Great Depression had Britain in its grip. Millions unemployed, factories silent, families starving. Across the Channel, Adolf Hitler was rising in Germany, fascism spreading like poison. And in the Soviet Union, propaganda painted a picture of a worker's paradise fighting for the common man. Four bright, idealistic young men from privileged backgrounds, this was a perfect storm. Many felt guilt about their own elite educations while the poor suffered. Communism, or at least the romantic idea of it, seemed like the only force strong enough to stop the Nazis. He later admitted the atmosphere at Cambridge was electric with Marxism. Almost every intelligent undergraduate flirted with the left in those years. And right in the middle of it all was a secretive little society that would change everything: the Cambridge Apostles. Founded in 1820, was an invitation-only club for the university's most brilliant minds, philosophers, poets, future leaders. Meetings were held in candlelit rooms, discussions frank and often radical. Homosexuality was common among them at a time when it was still illegal in Britain. Another layer of hidden identity that Blunt, who was gay, understood all too well. It was here, around 1931 or 1932, that Blunt met the man who would pull him deeper into the shadows: Guy Burgess. Burgess was everything Blunt wasn't on the surface: loud, flamboyant, charming, a heavy drinker who loved scandal. But intellectually, they clicked. The two became close friends, sharing late-night talks about art, politics, and the coming fight against fascism. Hey, if this story of elite betrayal and hidden lives is gripping you already, do me a favor, pause for a second, hit like, and subscribe so you never miss the next twist. We've got so much more coming. He visited the Soviet Union. Accounts vary on the exact year, but the trip left an impression. He wasn't shouting slogans in the streets. He was quieter, more intellectual about it. But the Soviets noticed talent when they saw it. The recruitment happened gradually, as these things often did. Soviet intelligence, the NKVD forerunner of the KGB, had agents scouring British universities for promising recruits. They looked for idealists, disillusioned with the West, people with access, people who could rise high without suspicion. Some historians say Guy Burgess directly recruited him after they both left Cambridge proper. Others point to 1934, when Blunt was traveling in Europe. What we know for sure is that by 1937 at the latest, Blunt was actively working for the Soviets, first as a talent spotter, then as a full agent. This was the birth of the legendary Cambridge Five: Blunt, Burgess, Kim Philby, Donald Maclean, and John Cairncross. They knew each other, covered for each other, fed the same beast. Blunt was often the recruiter, the steady one, who brought others in. He approached Michael Straight, an American student, and convinced him to help the cause. He introduced Philby to the network. The Soviet Union is the only country truly fighting fascism, he'd argue. History will judge us if we do nothing. The political and social factors of the 1930s made it all feel righteous. The Spanish Civil War raged. Many Cambridge men went to fight for the Republicans against Franco's fascists. And some died. Newsreels showed Nazi rallies, Jewish families fleeing. In that climate, handing secrets to Moscow didn't feel like treason to these young men. It felt like the moral choice. The reality of Stalin's purges was hidden or dismissed as Western lies. He was becoming Britain's leading expert on Nicolas Poussin, the great 17th century French painter. He spoke multiple languages fluently, moved easily in high society, and his connections to the royal family through his mother opened doors. But inside, the double life was already taking its toll. By day, lecturing eager students on Baroque art, dining with Cambridge dons. By night, slipping coded messages to Soviet handlers, wondering if the knock at the door would be MI5. As a gay man in an era when it could destroy your career or land you in prison, secrecy was second nature. Blunt later called it the biggest mistake of my life, but in the moment, the cause felt bigger than the man. Now, let's fast forward to the war years, where Blunt's espionage became truly dangerous. When World War II broke out in 1939, Blunt joined the British Army's Intelligence Corps and served briefly in France. After the Dunkirk evacuation in 1940, he was pulled into MI5, Britain's domestic security service. They needed linguists, intellectuals, people who could think on their feet. Inside MI5, Blunt rose quickly. He worked in counter-espionage, specifically on surveillance of foreign embassies in London. This is where the triplex operation comes in, one of the most audacious British intelligence feats of the war. And one Blunt helped run while secretly undermining it. Triplex, or XXX, was MI5's secret project to crack open the diplomatic pouches of neutral countries. Spain, Portugal, Turkey, others, right in the heart of London. These bags carried sensitive reports back to their governments, full of gossip, military insights, and sometimes leaks about Axis plans. How did they do it? MI5 officers, working with port and embassy staff they'd cultivated, would distract the diplomatic couriers. Sometimes with drinks, sometimes with attractive company arranged discreetly, male or female, depending on the target. While the courier was occupied overnight, the bags were opened with special tools. Every document photographed page by page, then carefully resealed so no one would know. The copies went straight to MI5 analysts. Blunt was right in the middle of this. As a trusted officer, he oversaw parts of the handling and distribution of triplex material. He had access to the raw intelligence flowing in. And here's the chilling part. Everything he saw, he passed to his Soviet controllers. Names, methods, what Britain knew about neutral countries' leanings toward Hitler. The Soviets got a front row seat to British tradecraft, all while Britain and the USSR were supposed allies after 1941. Blunt's access went much higher. He became liaison between MI5 and other services, giving him glimpses into the crown jewels of British intelligence. Ultra. Ultra was the ultra-secret program at Bletchley Park, where Allied codebreakers, led by the brilliant Alan Turing, cracked the German Enigma machine. The decrypts revealed Wehrmacht plans, U-boat positions, Luftwaffe orders, intelligence that saved countless lives. Blunt didn't work at Bletchley himself, but as an MI5 insider, he received summaries and reports based on Ultra, especially material related to the Eastern Front, where the Soviets were bleeding against the Nazis. Thousands of documents over the years, nearly 1,800 by some counts from the Cambridge Ring combined, with Blunt contributing heavily. Soviet archives later showed they received details of German troop movements, spy networks inside the USSR, even plans Britain sometimes withheld from Stalin out of distrust. Because the Cambridge Five believed the Soviet Union needed every advantage to crush Hitler. But it also sowed seeds of future Cold War paranoia. Stalin always suspected the British were holding back. Then there was Operation Fortitude, the massive Allied deception campaign to convince Hitler that the D-Day invasion would hit Calais, not Normandy. Fake armies, inflatable tanks, double agents feeding false intel. Blunt, deep in counterintelligence, had visibility into these plans. The Soviets, fighting for their survival on the Eastern Front, used every scrap to push back the Germans. But imagine the tension. Blunt was helping win the war for the Allies while betraying their trust to one specific ally who might turn enemy tomorrow. Throughout all this, his relationships with the other Cambridge spies were crucial. Guy Burgess remained his closest confidant, the wild card who drank too much, talked too loud, but delivered results. Kim Philby, charming and ambitious, was rising in MI6. Blunt helped smooth his path. Donald Maclean, solid in the Foreign Office, and John Cairncross at Bletchley, each brought different pieces. They met discreetly, passed warnings when one was under suspicion, covered tracks. Blunt was the steady recruiter, the intellectual anchor. "We are the future," he'd tell them in quiet moments. "History is on our side." But the human cost was mounting. Colleagues described Blunt as cool, detached, almost machine-like in his precision. Sleepless nights, the constant fear of exposure, the moral gymnastics of betraying friends and country for an ideology. As an art historian, he poured himself into Poussin's studies, perhaps the one pure escape. His expertise gave him cover. Who would suspect the refined scholar cataloging royal paintings of being a red agent? By 1945, as the war ended, Blunt's MI5 work wrapped up. That same year, he was appointed Surveyor of the King's Pictures, the man responsible for the royal art collection. King George VI trusted him completely. He advised on acquisitions, restorations, even secret missions to Germany to recover looted royal treasures. In 1947, he became director of the Courtauld Institute, shaping British art history. Knighted in 1956 as Sir Anthony Blunt, he maintained quiet contact with Soviet handlers, passing the occasional tidbit. And in 1951, when Burgess and Maclean's covers were about to blow, Blunt played a key role in helping them flee to Moscow. Now, here's where the story takes an even darker, more controversial turn. One we'll explore more in part 2, but let me plant the seed. During the war, MI5 heard whispers of a mysterious German source, codenamed Josephine, someone feeding high-level Allied plans straight to the Nazis. Josephine provided details that helped Hitler prepare for certain operations, including, some say, contributing to the disaster at Arnhem during Operation Market Garden in 1944, where thousands of Allied troops died. Who was Josephine? Some researchers point fingers at Blunt himself, the man tasked inside MI5 with hunting for leaks. Did ideological zeal or something more complex lead him to tip off the enemy of his enemy? We don't conclude it here. The evidence is tantalizing but debated. But the questions linger like smoke in a sealed room. How deep did the betrayal really go? The respected art historian, the Queen's trusted advisor, the man who had dined with royalty and outwitted the world's best spies. But the walls were closing in. Defections had rattled the ring. And one day, a knock would come that would force Blunt to confront everything. But that, my friends, is for part 2. The confession, the cover-up, the fall from grace, and the final reckoning. If you want to know how the Queen's own spy was finally unmasked after decades of deception, make sure you're subscribed. Comment your theories below. Was Blunt just an ideologue or something far more dangerous? Where are you watching from? Stay vigilant, stay curious, and remember, in the world of espionage, nothing is ever what it seems. Remember to like, subscribe, and share this video right now if you're still reeling from part 1. And let us know in the comments exactly where you're watching from. Maybe you're in a palace-adjacent flat in London, or halfway across the world in Sydney, or even somewhere in the old Soviet bloc. Drop it below. We love hearing from every corner of the globe. The story of Anthony Blunt continues, and trust me, it's even more shocking than you imagined. The man who walked freely through the Queen's private galleries while carrying the weight of the world's biggest betrayal. This is where his double life begins to crack. When World War II ended in 1945, most spies faded into the shadows or took quiet desk jobs. But Anthony Blunt, he stepped straight into the spotlight of the British establishment, right into the heart of the royal family itself. Picture this. The war is over. Britain is exhausted but victorious, and King George VI needs a man he can trust with the crown's greatest treasures. That man is Blunt. In 1945, he is appointed Surveyor of the King's Pictures, the official guardian of the Royal Art Collection, one of the finest and most valuable in the world. Imagine the scenes. Blunt, tall, elegant, always impeccably dressed in tweed or Savile Row suits. Walking the long corridors of Buckingham Palace and Windsor Castle, he catalogues Rembrandts, Van Dycks, Canalettos. He advises the king on acquisitions, restorations, even secret wartime recoveries. And when George VI dies in 1952 and young Elizabeth II ascends the throne, Blunt's role becomes Surveyor of the Queen's Pictures. He becomes a trusted insider, the quiet scholar the Queen turns to for advice on her priceless collection. He dines at royal tables, travels with the family on art-related missions, and earns their complete confidence. In 1956, the Queen knights him, Sir Anthony Blunt, KCVO, the ultimate seal of approval from the monarchy. But here's the human side that makes this story so gripping. While the world sees the refined art historian rising higher, Blunt is still carrying secrets that could destroy everything. His official MI5 service ended in 1945, but the espionage didn't stop cold. He maintained quiet contacts with his Soviet handlers. He passed along scraps of information from old colleagues, diplomatic gossip, anything that might still help the cause he once believed in so fiercely. And his expertise in languages and high society gave him access that few others had. One of the most dramatic episodes comes right after the war. The royal family had lost precious artworks, jewels, and historical documents looted by the Nazis during the conflict. Blunt is sent on secret missions into occupied Germany to recover them. Picture him in the ruins of Berlin and other German cities in 1945, rubble everywhere. Allied soldiers patrolling, displaced families begging for food. Blunt, fluent in German, moves through checkpoints, negotiates with military authorities, tracks down crates hidden in bunkers or private collections. Officially, it's all for the crown, but some historians believe that during these trips, he gathered intelligence on Soviet-occupied zones, on former Nazis now working for the West, and quietly fed useful details back to Moscow. The man hunting for royal treasures was still, in his own mind, serving a different master. Hey, if the idea of a Soviet spy strolling through Buckingham Palace gives you chills, hit that like button hard and subscribe so you catch every twist in this saga. We're just getting started on the post-war drama. The biggest test of Blunt's loyalty to his old comrades comes in May 1951. By now, the Cold War is in full swing. Korea is bleeding, the Iron Curtain has slammed shut, and British intelligence is hunting for moles. Two of Blunt's closest friends from the Cambridge Five are in serious trouble: Guy Burgess and Donald Maclean. Burgess, the flamboyant drunk, has been recalled from Washington for outrageous behavior. Maclean, the polished diplomat, is cracking under the pressure of his own double life and heavy drinking. MI5 and MI6 are closing in. They suspect both men of leaking secrets for years. Blunt gets the warning through the network. Philby, still in MI6, tips them off that the net is tightening. What happens next is pure espionage thriller material. On May 25, 1951, Burgess suddenly appears back in London. Blunt meets him at Southampton docks after Burgess sails in on the Queen Mary. He drives Burgess straight to his own flat in London. There, in hushed voices, they plan the escape. Blunt helps arrange cars, tickets, the route to the coast. Maclean is tipped off at the last minute. He leaves his wife and children behind, grabs a few things, and the two men vanish into the night, boarding a ferry to France and eventually making it to Moscow. Blunt later claimed he only helped with the practical side, getting Burgess settled, searching his flat for incriminating papers. He said he never warned them directly. But the truth, as he admitted years later, is he played a key role in their getaway. He even went through Burgess's chaotic apartment himself, destroying or hiding documents. He missed some handwritten notes that later helped expose John Cairncross, another member of the Ring. The defection is a disaster for British intelligence, two senior diplomats gone. Headlines screaming betrayal, Parliament demanding answers. Suspicion immediately falls on Blunt. After all, he was the steady one, the recruiter, the man who knew everyone. MI5 starts watching him closely. They interrogate him 11 times between 1951 and 1963. Blunt stays cool, almost icy. He admits nothing. "I was never a spy after the war," he tells them. "On my Cambridge days were youthful folly." But inside, the tension must have been unbearable. Every knock at the door, every casual question from a colleague could be the end. As a gay man in 1950s, Britain, when homosexuality was still a criminal offense punishable by prison, he already lived with layers of secrecy. Now, add treason. The psychological toll was immense. Friends later described him as increasingly distant, buried in his art books, finding solace in the precise, ordered world of Poussin paintings where everything had logic and beauty, unlike the chaos of his secret life. If you're feeling the suspense of this double life, do me a favor. Pause, smash like, and share this with a friend who loves real spy stories. Comment below. Could you live with that kind of constant fear? Through the 1950s and early 1960s, Blunt's public star keeps rising. He directs the Courtauld Institute of Art from 1947, turning it into a world-leading center for art history. His books on Nicolas Poussin become classics. K lectures, writes, restores masterpieces. The royal family remains loyal. The Queen even lets him exhibit her private treasures to the public. He seems untouchable, but the noose is tightening from across the Atlantic. The tipping point arrives in 1963. Michael Straight, the wealthy American student Blunt had recruited back at Cambridge in the 1930s, is offered a job in the Kennedy administration. To take it, he needs security clearance. The ghosts of his past won't stay buried. Straight goes to the FBI and confesses everything. How Blunt recruited him, how he passed information, how the whole Cambridge circle worked. The FBI alerts MI5. Suddenly, the file on Blunt explodes back to life. In February 1964, MI5 officer Arthur Martin flies to America, interviews Straight in detail. Straight's story is rock solid. Back in London, on the evening of April 23, 1964, Martin walks up to Blunt's elegant flat above the Courtauld Institute in Portman Square. The scene is straight out of a John le Carre novel. Martin sits down, calm but firm. He mentions Michael Straight. Blunt's face stays composed at first, but witnesses later note his right cheek begins twitching uncontrollably, a telltale sign of the strain he's hidden for decades. Blunt tries to brush it off, pure fantasy. Martin waits in silence. Then he offers the deal. Complete immunity from prosecution. No trial, no prison, no public scandal. If Blunt confesses fully and cooperates. The room grows heavy. Blunt stands, pours himself a large scotch, stares out the tall window at the square below for several long minutes. Finally, he turns and says the words that change everything. "Give me 5 minutes while I wrestle with my conscience." He comes back, sits down, and confesses. He admits he was recruited in the 1930s, that he talent spotted for the Soviets at Cambridge, that he passed thousands of documents while in MI5 during the war, including ultra-summaries and counter-espionage secrets. He confirms helping Burgess and Maclean escape in 1951. He names John Caircross and a few others. But he insists his active spying ended in 1945. No more after that. MI5 accepts the deal. The confession is locked away, known only to a tiny circle at the top. Even the Queen herself is not officially told until 1973. 9 long years later, and when she is, she responds with remarkable calm, according to newly released files. Blunt keeps his royal post. He keeps his knighthood. He retires as Surveyor in 1972 at age 65, stepping down from the Courtauld directorship in 1974. To the outside world, Sir Anthony Blunt remains the distinguished scholar, the Queen's trusted advisor, the man who brought order and beauty to Britain's art world. The secret holds. For now, but secrets this big have a way of surfacing. Fast forward to 1979. Britain is in turmoil, economic woes. Strikes. A new conservative prime minister named Margaret Thatcher, determined to shake things up. A book drops that changes everything. Andrew Boyle's The Climate of Treason. It tells the story of the Cambridge spies and strongly hints at the identity of the mysterious fourth man. Private Eye magazine goes further and names Blunt outright. The rumors explode. On November 15, 1979, Thatcher stands in the House of Commons and makes a sensational statement. She confirms that Anthony Blunt was indeed a Soviet agent, that he confessed in 1964, and that he was granted immunity. The chamber erupts. Headlines the next day: Scream Queen spy exposed. Traitor in the palace. Cameras swarm Blunt's modest home in Highgate. Reporters camp on his doorstep for days. The man who once moved silently through royal corridors is now front-page news across the world. The disgrace is total and swift. His knighthood is revoked within hours, the first time in modern history for such a reason. He loses his honors, his reputation, his place in polite society. Friends turn away. The art world is stunned. But Blunt doesn't hide forever. On November 20th, 1979, he calls a press conference. Looking tired but composed, he reads a prepared statement. "I made an appalling mistake. One I came to bitterly regret." He says it began as anti-fascism in the 1930s, that he realized too late how wrong it was. He expresses no full apology to the country he betrayed, but the regret feels real. In interviews with newspapers and television, he repeats the line, "It was the biggest mistake of his life." If this public unmasking after decades of silence has you on the edge of your seat, hit like and subscribe. Part 3 of our spy series is coming soon. And tell us in the comments, do you think Blunt's regret was genuine or just damage control? In his final years, Blunt retreated into quiet scholarship. He lived in his Highgate home, surrounded by books and paintings. He wrote a private 30,000-word memoir, sealed with instructions not to release it until 25 years after his death. When it finally came out in 2009, it revealed more of the man behind the spy. He called his espionage the biggest mistake of my life. After the 1979 exposure, he admitted he considered suicide but rejected it as cowardly. Instead, he turned to whiskey and concentrated work. He spoke of his growing disillusionment with the Soviet Union after the war, the purges, the repression, the reality behind the ideology. Yet he never fully explained why he protected the secret for so long, or the full extent of any post-1945 activities. He died of a heart attack on March 26, 1983, at age 75. No state funeral, no honors, just a quiet end for a man who once stood at the center of two empires. But even in death, the controversies refused to die. One of the most explosive theories swirling around Blunt concerns a mysterious wartime German source codenamed Josephine. During the war, MI5 heard rumors of Josephine, an agent feeding high-grade Allied secrets straight to Nazi intelligence in Berlin. Some of the information allegedly helped the Germans prepare for disasters like the failed Allied airborne drop at Arnhem during Operation Market Garden in September 1944, where thousands of British and Polish troops were killed or captured. Who was Josephine? The identity was never proven. Decades later, in 2024, its author Robert Verkake put forward a bombshell claim in his book, The Traitor of Arnhem. He argues, on the balance of probabilities, that Blunt himself was Josephine. The reasoning is chilling. Blunt was inside MI5 hunting for the leak. Yet he downplayed Josephine's importance and even misdirected investigations. He had access to the very plans being leaked. His ideological commitment to the Soviet cause might have led him to weaken the Western Allies by helping their common enemy, the Nazis buying time for Stalin on the Eastern Front. Verkake points to means, motive, and opportunity. But mainstream historians remain skeptical. No smoking gun document proves it. Josephine could have been a different source entirely, perhaps in neutral Switzerland, or even a fabricated legend. Blunt was a committed anti-fascist at heart. The theory adds one more layer of shadow to an already murky story, and it keeps researchers debating to this day. So what is Anthony Blunt's true legacy? On one side, he was a towering figure in British art history. His scholarship on 17th century French painting, especially Poussin, helped establish art history as a serious academic discipline in Britain. The Courtauld Institute, under his leadership, trained generations of experts. He saved and preserved priceless royal treasures. He was brilliant, cultured, a true polymath. On the other side, he was a traitor who betrayed his country, his friends, and the trust of the royal family he served. His actions helped Stalin's regime at critical moments, weakening Allied unity, prolonging the war in some views, and fueling decades of Cold War distrust. The Cambridge Five as a whole delivered thousands of documents that damaged British and American intelligence for years. Blunt's case exposed the blind spots of the British class system. How elite education, royal connections, and old boy networks protected even the worst offenders. Why was he given immunity? Why was the Queen kept in the dark for so long? These questions still sting. Psychologically, Blunt represents the human cost of ideology. A young man in the 1930s saw fascism rising and chose what he thought was the only moral side. By the time he realized the Soviet dream was a nightmare, it was too late. The machine of secrecy had him. Living that double life for decades scarred him. The cool, detached scholar was inside, a man wrestling with conscience every single day. It shows how brilliant minds can be seduced by grand ideas, how loyalty can fracture under pressure, and how even the most trusted insiders can hide the darkest secrets. In the grand theater of espionage, few characters have played their roles with such elegance and such devastating consequences. This has been Spy World Stories. Thank you for watching both parts of this incredible tale. If it made you think differently about trust, loyalty, and the price of secrets, hit like one last time. Subscribe for more true espionage documentaries, and share with someone who needs to hear this. Comment below. What shocked you most about Blunt's life? Do you believe the Josephine theory? Where were you when you first heard about the Cambridge spies? Stay curious, stay vigilant, and remember, in the world of shadows, the most dangerous spies are the ones who look exactly like us.